What's up everyone, welcome to the Federated Auto Parts 400 Top 5 DFS Picks video for Sunday, August 14th at Richmond Raceway, another short flat track on the schedule this weekend. As always, I am your host Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and this video is presented by PrizePicks. In today's video, we are going over general track strategy, how to approach this slate from a DFS perspective, my top 5 favorite plays on the slate. Please keep in mind this video is being recorded pre-practice and qualifying, so some of my thoughts and opinions on these drivers can and probably will end up changing, so making sure you're staying up to date on what happens on the track on Saturday and Sunday will be very beneficial to creating fantasy NASCAR lineups this weekend. And if you want the up-to-date info and analysis, you can find me and Jason Floyd on the Stokastic live before lock show, or break down the entire slate and answer any questions you may end up having. And as far as how we should approach the slate from a DFS perspective, the main focal point this weekend is going to be dominator points. We have 400 laps on the schedule, which means just under 300 total dominator points. So yes, going to be very important to try to nail those lap leaders, potential lap leaders this weekend, are guys that can pick up fast laps periodically throughout the race. And if you're looking for comparable tracks to Richmond, I would say Phoenix and New Hampshire are your best bets, just mainly looking at the shorter flat tracks. You can also throw in Martinsville, although it's a bit more unique. Then I think throwing in Nashville and Gateway would not be the worst idea. The good thing with practice this weekend, since it's a shorter track, we will get more laps down, so we should get a decent amount for the 10, 15, 20 lap averages to make some better decisions on who's going to have the fastest car on Sunday. But like I said, we're gonna want at least 2 dominators per lineup, and if you can stretch it to 3, I would feel pretty good about it. And in some instances, you can make it 4, but it's just gonna depend on what type of salary drivers are starting closer to the front or show some speed on Saturday. And moving on to the picks, we will start with number 5, and it's not a driver I talk up too often, but I like the price point here, and I like him at this track, and it's gonna be Keselowski. $7,000 on DraftKings, but only $6,000 over on FanDuel. And yes, he does have excellent track history here for a driver at this price point, but you got to keep in mind he used to be in a better car and Penske equipment in the number 2 car that is now ran by Austin Cindric, but he still has had some pretty solid runs at similar tracks this year, and he was also 4th in green flag speed at Richmond earlier in the season, and he's coming off a 7th place finish at New Hampshire and finished 13th at Richmond earlier in the season. So while he's typically not a guy that carries a ton of speed, he is someone that tends to qualify quite poorly sometimes. So at this price point, I don't really care where he starts, as long as he shows me a little bit of life in practice on Saturday. I think he'll be a nice fit as a cheap piece on both sites this weekend. And then moving on to number 4, we're going with another Ford here, but it's Kevin Harvick, $9,100 on DraftKings, $9,500 over on FanDuel, actually coming off a win last week. And didn't think he had the best car, but he did put himself in the right place at the right time after we had a late caution involving Christopher Bell and Ross Chastain. But Harvick had the best average green flag speed rating in the first Richmond race earlier this season, and over the past few years at short flat tracks, Kevin Harvick, that's been his best track type. And if you're looking at his numbers so far this season at them, finished 5th at New Hampshire, 10th at Nashville, 2nd at Richmond, and 6th at Phoenix. He definitely has the speed at these track types to get the job done here. Should certainly be a top 5 contender. Not really viewing him as a potential dominator, but no matter where he starts, he's going to be in contention for me in tournaments. And if he happens to start in the back half of the field, he's going to be an excellent cash game target. But I love the speed that he showed, and the Stewart-Haas team definitely has shown some life at these shorter flat tracks the past few years. And before we get into our next pick, I want to talk about our sponsor, PrizePicks. They offer daily prop-based contests, and you can use promo code OSMO for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There's no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries, and 5-player lineups can net up to 10 times your entry fee. Use knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. Download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play over on PrizePicks.com. And you can use our free player prop tools to help you make the best selections. And you can also get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit over at PrizePicks, and you'll receive your email within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And moving on to number 3, we're going to talk about our first Toyota here. That's Christopher Bell, $9,600 on DraftKings, $11,500 over on FanDuel, and he has given me trouble the past 2 weekends. I'm willing to go back to the well here. He has some of the best odds to win this race over in Vegas, and he's also our most recent winner at a short flat track a few weeks ago at New Hampshire, which is one of his best tracks in all of NASCAR, maybe even his best track. But I like Bell here quite a bit. I know it's not been a long history in the Cup career for Christopher Bell so far, but Richmond has been a pretty strong track for him. He's got a couple of top 5s and typically a top 10 contender. Also has been a dominator here before, averaging 18.3 laps led per race and the 4th most fast laps of all drivers in the past couple of seasons. And if you're looking at his recent finishes at short flat tracks, 1st at New Hampshire, 8th at Nashville, 9th at Gateway, and 6th at Richmond. And there was a 20th place finish at Martinsville and 26th at Phoenix. But for the most part, over his career so far, he's been very solid at these track types, and I assume he's going to have speed once again. And he's typically one of the cheaper JGR cars, so I always like to take advantage of that. Now, he always seems to have an issue at some point during the race, so let's just hope it's not at the end this week. And moving on to number 2, it's Martin Truex Jr., $10,600 on DraftKings, $14,000 over on FanDuel, the most expensive driver over on the FanDuel side of things. He's a little bit easier to afford over on DK. He's got the best odds to win this race over in Vegas, tied with his teammate Denny Hamlin. But it is impossible to bet against Martin Truex Jr. at Richmond. This is arguably his best track in NASCAR. And if you look at the past few seasons here at Richmond, he's averaging the most DraftKings points per race at nearly 90. An average finish, which is insane, but it's 2.3 with an average running position of 4.2. By far the best drive rating, and he's won half the races here the past few seasons, and he's been in the top 5 each and every single time. And their kicker here for Martin Truex Jr. is that he actually has to win still to get into the playoffs. He is sitting 4th in the NASCAR Cup Series point standings for the playoffs, but he does not have a win under his belt, and he is in danger of missing the playoffs. So I think this is the best chance for Truex to get that win under his belt and solidify himself into the playoffs. So I am pretty much going to be all in on Truex here. I like the narrative. I like the track history. He's been good at the shorter flat tracks earlier this season. He's got the speed at them, so it pretty much checks each and every single box for me. His pit crew's been very solid as well, which we've seen at the shorter flat tracks, that if your pit crew is going to perform poorly, you're probably going to be pretty poor during the race, because that's when the positions are gained for the most part on pit road. So checks every single box for me. Loving Truex. If he was the most expensive driver, he'd be the number 1 play here, but I like to go in chronological order, so he ends up being 2 this week. And then finally, my number 1 play for the Federated Auto Parts 400 at Richmond. I do like Truex more, but again, he's just more expensive this weekend, so it's Denny Hamlin, $11,100 on DraftKings, $13,500 over on FanDuel. And just like his teammate Truex, he is one of the best drivers at Richmond. He's basically second in every single statistical category, only behind his teammate Martin Truex Jr., second in laps led, second in fast laps, second in average finish, driver rating, DraftKings points per race, and has also finished in the top 5 out of the past 6 races here, and obviously a good chunk of dominator points as well. And he also won the Richmond race earlier in the season. Did not have the best car, but put himself in a good position at the end of the race to get the job done. Finished 6th at New Hampshire, 6th at Nashville, had some issues at Gateway and Martinsville where he just had some pretty poor races, but for the most part, Hamlin has had a fast car each and every single week this year. Just a lot of times he's had some issues on pit road, which have derailed his race. But I'm liking Hamlin a lot. Time for the best odds to win this race over in Vegas with his teammate Martin Truex Jr. And the way Toyota has been running the past few months, it's hard to bet against them right now. So just to recap, at number 5, we had Brad Keselowski, number 4, Kevin Harvick, and then the trio of JGR cars, number 3, Christopher Bell, number 2, Martin Truex Jr., and number 1, Denny Hamlin. Basically just looking at guys that have been fast at the short flat tracks this year, have good track history at them, or have showed some speed as of late. And if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and feel free to leave a comment down below agreeing or disagreeing with anything I had to say, or you can just tell us your 5 favorite plays heading into the weekend. And make sure to follow us on Sunday for the Live Before Lock show, where me and Jason will break down the entire slate and answer any questions you may end up having. But with that being said, I wish you all the best of luck this weekend, and I'm looking forward to the race at Richmond.